Okay, so I need to tell someone about this because it's been eating at me for like 6 months now, and I genuinely don't know what I saw, or what happened, or if I'm losing my mind. It's probably all three, honestly. This happened last June. Early June, I think. Maybe mid-June. I don't know. The exact date doesn't really matter. What matters is that I went hiking on this trail I've done 1,000,000 times before. Well, not 1,000,000, but you know what I mean. A lot. It's this 8-mile loop trail about 40 minutes from where I live. Nothing crazy. Not one of those intense mountain climbs or anything. Just a nice forest trail that takes you through some really thick woods and then loops back around to the parking lot. Pretty standard stuff. I go hiking a lot. It's kind of my thing. Always have been into it since I was a kid. Something about being out in nature, away from people and phones and all that noise. Just clears my head. Makes me feel normal again, I guess. So yeah, last June, I decided to go hiking. Seemed like a perfectly normal Tuesday. Like I said, I've done this specific trail a bunch of times. At least a dozen. Maybe 15 if I'm really counting. It's one of my go-to trails because it's not usually too crowded. The parking is free, and it's just the right length where I can finish it in about 3 hours if I'm moving at a decent pace. I know every turn on this trail. I know where the steep parts are. I know where there's that one spot where the path splits, and you have to take the left fork, or you'll end up on this completely different trail that adds like another 2 miles. I know where the creek crossing is, even though it's usually pretty dried up by June. Point is, this wasn't some random trail I'd never been on before. This wasn't me trying to explore somewhere new and getting lost. I knew this trail. Could probably hike it with my eyes closed at this point. That's what makes the whole thing so messed up. When you know a place that well, you notice when something's different, when something's wrong. And that day, something was definitely wrong. I'm getting ahead of myself. So, I got to the trailhead around 4 p.m. Yeah, I know. Not the smartest time to start an 8-mile hike. My friend Sarah actually texted me that morning and was like, "You're going this afternoon? That's kind of late, isn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, probably." But it was summer, and the sun doesn't set until like 8:30 or 9 p.m. that time of year, so I figured I'd be totally fine. I hike fast anyway. 3 hours, maybe 3.5 max. That would get me back to my car by like 7:30. Still plenty of light, no big deal. I've started hikes later than that before and been completely fine. I always have my headlamp in my pack just in case, but I've literally never needed it, so I wasn't worried at all. The parking lot was almost empty when I got there. Just one other car. I figured whoever that was probably already on their way back. It was a weekday afternoon, so that made sense. Most people hike on weekends or early morning. I locked my car, put my keys in my pack, and headed out. I remember thinking this was going to be exactly what I needed. Just a chill, easy hike to clear my head. I'd had a pretty stressful week at work and honestly just wanted to zone out for a few hours and not think about anything. That's what I love about hiking. You get into this rhythm where you're just walking, breathing, looking at trees, and your brain kind of shuts off. All the stress and anxiety and overthinking just melts away. It's like meditation, but without having to sit still, which I'm terrible at anyway. So, I started up the trail feeling good. Really good, actually. The weather was perfect. Not too hot, nice breeze. It's the kind of day where you're just happy to be alive and outside and doing something you love. I had my usual playlist going in my headphones. Just some chill instrumental stuff, nothing too loud. I like being able to hear the forest around me while I hike. Birds whined in the trees, that kind of thing. Everything was exactly how it always was. Normal, routine, safe. I should have known better. Nothing ever stays normal. The first hour of the hike was totally uneventful. Exactly what I expected. I passed the familiar landmarks. The big fallen tree about a 1/4 mile in. The spot where the trail gets really narrow and you have to watch your footing. The little clearing where I always stop to take a drink of water. I saw a few other hikers coming down as I was going up. I think this older couple, probably in their 60s, with matching hiking poles. They smiled and said, "Beautiful day," as we passed each other. I said, "Yeah, gorgeous back." Normal hiking etiquette. Then maybe 20 minutes later, I passed this younger guy, probably around my age, who was basically jogging down the trail. He just gave me a quick nod as he flew past. Looked like he was in a hurry to get back before dark, which I remember thinking was smart. I kept my pace steady. Not too fast, not too slow. Just my usual comfortable speed where I could keep going for hours without getting too tired. The sun was still high in the sky, filtering through the trees in that really pretty way where you get all these rays of light coming down. I even took my phone out at one point and snapped a picture of it. Just a random photo of the trail ahead of me with the sunlight coming through. Everything was fine. Everything was normal. And then I hit mile 5. Around mile 5, the fog started rolling in. And I mean rolling. Like 1 minute, I'm walking along in full sunshine, birds chirping, everything bright and clear. And then literally 10 minutes later, I can barely see 20 feet in front of me. I've hiked in fog before, it's not that weird. Mountains and forests get foggy, especially in the evening. But this felt different somehow. It was so thick and it came in so fast. Usually fog kind of gradually builds up, you know. You start noticing it's getting a little hazy, then a little hazier, then boom, you're in fog. This was like someone just flipped a switch. Clear, then fog. Just like that. I stopped for a second and just looked around. I couldn't see the trail ahead anymore. I could barely see the trees on either side of me. Everything just disappeared into this gray wall of nothing. It was disorienting as hell. My first thought was, okay, this is fine. The trail is well marked. I've got my phone GPS if I need it. I'll just slow down and be more careful about following the path. But that's when I realized I couldn't really see the trail markers anymore either. And everything looked ... different. I kept walking, but something felt off. The trees looked wrong. They were thicker, darker, more densely packed together. I didn't remember this section of the trail being this overgrown. And the path itself seemed narrower, less defined. Like usually this trail is pretty clear, you can see exactly where you're supposed to walk. But now it was like I was just walking through a random forest, hoping I was still on the trail. I pulled out my phone to check the GPS, and yeah, okay. Technically I was still on the trail according to the little blue dot, but everything around me just felt wrong. Like I'd somehow taken a turn I didn't remember taking and ended up in a completely different part of the forest. I told myself I was just disoriented because of the fog. Everything looks different when you can't see properly. Your brain starts playing tricks on you. It's normal. But here's the thing. I know this trail. I've hiked it so many times, and this didn't feel like any part of the trail I remembered. The trees were wrong. The spacing was wrong. Even the smell was different. Less pine, more decay. I kept walking anyway. What else was I gonna do? Turn back? I was already more than halfway through. Might as well keep going. That's when I noticed how quiet everything was. It's like really quiet, unnaturally quiet. When you're in a forest, there's always some kind of ambient noise. Birds chirping, wind rustling through leaves, maybe a squirrel scurrying around, insects buzzing. There's always something. Even when it's relatively quiet, it's never completely silent. But right then, nothing. Just dead silence. The only sounds were my footsteps on the trail and my own breathing. That's it. I pulled my headphones out completely, thinking maybe I just couldn't hear because of the music. But no, it was actually that quiet. No birds, no wind, no insects, nothing. It was the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. It's the kind where you become hyper-aware of your own heartbeat. Because that's literally the only thing you can hear besides your footsteps. I stopped walking for a minute and just stood there, listening, waiting for something. Anything. A bird call. A branch cracking. Just some sign of life. But there was nothing. Just me and the fog and this suffocating silence that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. That's when I started to feel genuinely uneasy. Not panicked yet, but definitely not comfortable anymore. I started walking faster. I just wanted to get through this section and back to a part of the trail I recognized. Back to where things felt normal again. I was watching the GPS on my phone, making sure I was still heading in the right direction. The blue dot was moving along the trail line, so I knew I was going the right way. But everything around me still felt completely unfamiliar. And then I looked up from my phone and saw it. The cabin. I stopped walking. Just froze in place and stared at it, because this made absolutely no sense. There is no cabin on this trail. There has never been a cabin on this trail. I've hiked this trail at least 15 times, and there has never been a cabin. But there it was, maybe 30 feet off to the right side of the trail. It's just sitting there between the trees like it had always been there, like it belonged there. It was small, single story. Old wooden siding that looked gray and weathered. The windows were dark. Either the glass was really dirty, or they were covered from the inside. I couldn't tell. The whole thing had this abandoned, forgotten look to it. I stood there for probably a full minute just staring at it, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. My brain was like, this isn't here. This doesn't exist. No, this trail and there's no cabin. But my eyes were saying, yeah, there's definitely a cabin right there. I pulled out my phone and looked at the GPS again. According to the map, I was exactly where I thought I was. On the trail, about mile 5.5, there was no cabin marked on the map. No structure of any kind. Just trail and forest. But I was literally looking at a cabin, right there, in front of me. I even refreshed the GPS, thinking maybe it was glitching or hadn't loaded properly. Nope, same thing, no cabin on the map. But a very real cabin in front of my eyes. This was impossible. I've hiked this trail so many times. I know every landmark. I know where the old fire pit is from people who camp illegally. I know where someone carved their initials into a tree. I know where there's that weird rock formation that looks like a face. And I would definitely remember if there was an entire cabin out here. So either I was somehow on a completely different trail than I thought, which didn't make sense because the GPS said otherwise. This cabin just ... appeared, which obviously made even less sense. I started walking toward it. I don't know why. Maybe I thought if I got closer, I'd realize it was just a weird rock formation or a group of trees that looked like a building from far away. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me because of the fog and the weird light. But the closer I got, the more solid it became. This was definitely a cabin. Old, run down, but definitely man-made. Wood planks, a door, windows, a slightly sagging roof. This was real. This was here. It shouldn't be. I stopped about 10 feet from the cabin and pulled out my phone again. Partly to check the GPS one more time, but also because I was starting to feel genuinely freaked out and thought maybe I should call someone. Let someone know where I was. Just in case. No signal, of course. Because why would anything be easy or make sense right now? I tried anyway. Opened my phone, watched the little signal bars search and find nothing. No service. I was too deep in the forest, too surrounded by hills and trees. This wasn't unusual. I usually don't have service on this trail until I get back near the parking lot. But right now it felt really, really inconvenient. I looked back down the trail the way I came. I could barely see anything through the fog. Just gray. I looked at my watch. It was almost 6:30. The sun would be setting in maybe 2 hours. And I was still at least 3 miles from the parking lot. If I turned back now, I might make it before dark. Might. Fog was only getting thicker. Hiking in the dark through unfamiliar terrain because at this point, I genuinely wasn't sure where I was anymore. Seemed like a really bad idea. Cabin was right there. Shelter, if I needed to wait out the fog, if it got too dark. But yeah, that's how I justified it to myself. I walked up to the front door. There were 3 wooden steps leading up to it, and they creaked under my weight. Old wood. The whole cabin looked like it could collapse at any moment, honestly. The door was just a plain wooden door with a metal handle. No windows in it, no decorations, nothing, just a door. I knocked on it first, which felt stupid even as I was doing it. Like, who was going to answer? If someone was living here, there would be signs of life. Smoke from a chimney, lights, something. But I knocked anyway. 3 times. Waited. Nothing. Just silence. That same dead, suffocating silence that had been following me since the fog rolled in. I tried the handle, expected it to be locked. Old abandoned cabin in the middle of nowhere. Of course the door would be locked or stuck or something. But it wasn't. The handle turned easily and the door swung open with barely any effort. That should have been my first real red flag. Like, my brain was screaming at me that something was wrong. Abandoned cabins don't just have unlocked doors. Someone should have locked it. Someone should have boarded it up. Something. But I was already spooked, already not thinking clearly, and the idea of shelter was too appealing to ignore. So I stepped inside. The inside was dark, really dark. It took my eyes a solid 30 seconds to adjust after coming in from outside. The cabin was basically one room, small, maybe 15 feet by 15 feet. There were windows on all 4 walls, but they were so covered in grime and fog that barely any light was coming through. It was like someone had painted over them with gray paint. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, and I could finally see what I was dealing with. The cabin was mostly empty. No furniture except for a single wooden chair in the corner, facing one of the windows, and a small table against the wall. But what really caught my attention was the plate on the table. There was food on it, like actual food, a sandwich or something cut in half. It looked fresh. Not moldy or old or dried out fresh. Like someone had just been eating it and walked away. But everything else in the cabin was covered in dust. The windowsills, the floor, the chair. Everything had this thick layer of grime and dust, like nobody had been here in years. Except for the table and the plate. Those were clean. Didn't make any sense. How could there be fresh food in an abandoned, dusty cabin in the middle of nowhere? Who brought it here? When? I should have left right then. That was my chance. But I didn't. I was standing there staring at the plate, trying to make sense of it, when I noticed something else. Handprints on the window. At first I thought they were on the inside, which would have made sense. Someone had been here recently, touched the window, left prints. Weird but explainable. But then I looked closer. They were on the outside. On the outside of the glass, small handprints, like child-sized. All clustered together on one section of the window, about chest height. 5 or 6 of them, overlapping. Like someone had been pressing their hands against the glass from outside, trying to look in, trying to get in. My stomach dropped. I walked over to the window and looked at them more closely. They were definitely on the outside. I could tell from the way the dirt and grime was smudged. Someone had been standing outside this cabin in the middle of nowhere, pressing their hands against the window. Recently, those prints were too clear to be old. I leaned closer to the window, squinting through the dirty glass, trying to see outside. Trying to see if whoever made those handprints was still out there. Fog was so thick I could barely see anything. Just gray, just nothing. And then something moved. At first, I thought I imagined it. Eyes playing tricks on me, shadows and fog, and my own fear mixing together to create something that wasn't there. Then I saw it again, a shape in the fog, just barely visible, maybe 15-20 feet from the cabin. It wasn't walking, wasn't running, just shifting. Like it had been standing perfectly still, and I just finally noticed it was there. I could barely make out any details through the fog and the dirty window, just a dark shape, roughly human-sized, standing there. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, just stared at the shape through the window. And then I realized something that made everything 10 times worse. Whatever was out there was looking back at me. Couldn't see its face, couldn't see its eyes. I could feel it looking at me. We stayed like that for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only a few seconds. Me inside, it outside, both of us perfectly still. And then it tilted its head. It was real slow, deliberate. The movement was so wrong, so not human. Like someone who didn't quite understand how humans move, trying to mimic the gesture. That's when I ran. I don't even remember opening the door. I don't remember running down the steps. My brain just completely blanked out and went into pure survival mode. I just remember running, crashing through the forest. Branches whipping my face, roots trying to trip me, backpack slamming against my spine with every step. I couldn't see where I was going. The fog was too thick and I was moving too fast. I just ran in what I hoped was the direction of the trail. Away from the cabin, away from whatever that thing was. My lungs were burning. My legs were screaming. I could hear myself making these horrible gasping, whimpering sounds, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't slow down. Terror was so intense, it felt like something physical pushing me forward. I hit the trail by pure luck. Literally ran straight into it. Almost fell, caught myself, and just kept going. Didn't even slow down to check the GPS or make sure I was going the right direction. Just ran. Tree branches were scratching my arms, my face. Felt something tear, my jacket maybe, or my skin, I don't know. Didn't care. Just kept going. I have no idea how long I ran. 5 minutes? 10? 20? Time stopped moving. It was just terror and movement, and the sound of my own ragged breathing. That's when I ran. I don't know how I found it. Maybe muscle memory, maybe luck, maybe whatever was in those woods decided to let me go. But suddenly the trail looked familiar again. I recognized the trees, recognized the way the path curved. I knew where I was. The fog was lifting too, not completely, but enough that I could see more than 20 feet ahead. The forest didn't look wrong anymore. The trees were the normal ones I remembered. Everything was how it should be. I slowed down to a jog, then a fast walk, hands on my knees, trying to catch my breath. My whole body was shaking, from exertion, from adrenaline, from fear. I looked back the way I came. Just normal forest, normal trail. Ooh, the fog was thin enough now that I could see pretty far back. No cabin, no shape, no movement. Just trees and trail and evening sunlight starting to filter through again. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. Still no signal, but the GPS was working. I was about half a mile from the parking lot, almost there. I started walking again, faster now. I just wanted to get to my car. Get out of here. Get somewhere with people, lights, and cell service and normalcy. By the time I got to the parking lot, it was almost 9 p.m. The sun was setting, casting everything in this orange-pink glow. My car was the only one there. I've never been so happy to see my car in my entire life. I practically ran to it, fumbling for my keys in my backpack with hands that were still shaking. Dropped them once. Picked them up. Finally got the door unlocked and threw myself into the driver's seat. I locked the doors immediately. All of them. Checked the back seat to make sure nothing was there. Started the engine. Turned on all the lights. And then I just sat there, engine running, doors locked, lights on, breathing hard, and trying to process what the hell just happened. The logical part of my brain was trying to rationalize everything. You got disoriented. The fog confused you. You saw an old hunting cabin and freaked yourself out. The shape in the window was probably just a tree or a shadow. You panicked over nothing. But the rest of me knew that wasn't true. Something had been wrong out there. Really wrong. The cabin shouldn't have existed. That thing outside wasn't a shadow. And I didn't have proof. No photos. No evidence. Just my own racing heart and scratched up face, and the memory of something tilting its head in a way nothing human should move. I sat there in my car for probably 20 minutes before I felt calm enough to actually drive. I pulled out my phone. I don't know why. Maybe just to check the time or to see if I had service yet. I wasn't really thinking clearly. That's when I saw it. The little notification on my camera app. 2 new photos. I froze. Stared at the notification. 2 new photos. I mean, I'd taken that one picture earlier in the hike at the beginning when everything was still normal. That was hours ago. It was just 1 photo. These were new. 2 photos. Added to my camera roll within the last hour. My hands started shaking again. I didn't want to look. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me not to open that app, to just delete whatever was there without looking. To throw my phone out the window and drive away and never think about this again. But I had to know. I opened the camera app, went to the camera roll, and there they were. The 2 newest photos, time-stamped about an hour ago, right around when I would have been in the cabin. I clicked on the first one. My blood went cold. The first photo was the view from inside the cabin. Looking out the window, the same window I'd been standing at, same window with the handprints. The image showed the foggy forest outside, barely visible through the dirty glass. The angle was from exactly where I'd been standing. Same height, same position. I didn't take this photo. I know I didn't. I had my phone out to use the flashlight, but I never opened the camera app. I never took a picture. But here it was. Proof that I'd been there. In that cabin, looking out that window. My hands were trembling so hard I almost dropped the phone. I didn't want to look at the second photo. Didn't want to see what else was there. But I had to. I swiped to the next image. It was the same view, same window, same fog, same angle. But this one was different. The corner of the frame, barely visible in the dim light, was a figure, a dark shape, standing behind where I would have been standing. Behind where the camera would have been if I'd been holding it. Someone had been in the cabin with me, standing right behind me. Close enough to reach out and touch me. Close enough to take my phone from my pocket. Close enough to open the camera and take 2 photos. And I never knew. Never felt anything. Never heard anything. I stared at the photo, at the dark shape in the corner. Couldn't make out any details. Couldn't see a face or body or anything specific. Just a dark, human-shaped shadow. Standing right behind me, I deleted the photos. Right there in the parking lot, hands shaking so bad I could barely tap the screen. Selected both images and hit delete. They disappeared from my camera roll, gone, like they never existed. Except they did exist. I saw them. They were real. Someone or something had been in that cabin with me, close enough to take my phone, unlock it, open the camera, take 2 photos, and put it back without me ever noticing. That shouldn't be possible. You can't take someone's phone out of their pocket, use it, and replace it without them knowing, especially when they're already on edge, already scared, already hyper-aware of everything around them. But it happened. I sat there in my car for another hour, maybe longer. I wasn't looking at the clock. I was just sitting there, engine running, doors locked, trying to convince myself I'd imagined the whole thing, but I couldn't. Because the photos had been real. The timestamps had been real. The image of that dark shape standing behind me had been real. Someone took those photos, and it wasn't me. The questions started then. They haven't stopped since. If something was behind me in that cabin, when did it get there? Was it already there when I walked in? Was it hiding in the shadows, watching me look around? Was it watching me notice the food on the table? Or did it come in after me? Did it follow me inside, stand behind me while I was looking at the handprints on the window? How close was it? Close enough to reach out and touch me. Close enough to feel its breath on my neck. And why didn't I feel it? You're supposed to feel when someone's behind you. It's like a basic human instinct. You feel the presence, the change in air. Something, but I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. Was it there the whole time? While I was looking at the food? While I was walking around? While I was standing at the window, staring out at the shape in the fog? Wait, the shape in the fog? Was that even real? Or was that just a distraction? Make me look outside, so I wouldn't notice what was right behind me. These questions loop in my head constantly, especially at night, especially when I'm alone. I know how this sounds. Trust me, I know. I sound like someone who watched too many horror movies and freaked themselves out in the woods. I sound paranoid. I sound crazy. If someone told me this story, I'd probably think they were making it up, or that they got disoriented and confused, and their brain filled in the gaps with scary explanations because that's what brains do. I've tried to rationalize it. I've tried to come up with logical explanations. Maybe I did take those photos and just don't remember because I was in shock. Maybe there's some glitch in how phone cameras work that I don't understand. Maybe the timestamps were wrong. Maybe it was all some weird technical malfunction. Maybe the cabin was real, and that's just an old hunting cabin nobody bothered to mark on maps. Maybe there was someone living there illegally and they messed with me as a joke. So maybe the shape in the fog was just another hiker who happened to be there at the wrong time. Maybe. But deep down, I know that's not what happened. I know what I saw. I know what I felt. I know those photos were real, and I didn't take them. Something was wrong in those woods. That cabin shouldn't have existed. Something was in there with me. I haven't been back to that trail. I haven't even driven past it. I take a different route now when I'm going anywhere near that area, even if it adds 20 minutes to my drive. I still hike. I'm not going to let this ruin something I love, but I stay on popular trails now. During the day, there are other people around. Do solo hikes anymore. Definitely don't start hiking at 4 p.m. I check my phone constantly when I'm out there. Make sure no photos are getting added that I didn't take. I keep my location services on so people always know where I am. I tell at least 3 people exactly where I'm going and when I'll be back. My friends think I'm being paranoid, and maybe I am, but I don't care. Sometimes I think about going back, just to prove to myself that the cabin isn't there. That it was all some weird fog-induced hallucination or something. Every time I think about it, I remember the shape in the fog tilting its head. I remember the dark figure in the corner of that photo, and know I can never go back there. Whatever that place was, whatever was in those woods, I'm not meant to know, and I'm okay with that. The worst part isn't what I saw, it's what I don't know. I don't know what that cabin was. I don't know if it's still there. I don't know if other people have seen it, or if it was just there for me, waiting for me. I don't know what the shape in the fog was. Human, animal, something else. I don't know what was standing behind me in that cabin. How long it watched me. What it wanted. Why it let me go. 'Cause that's the thing, it let me go. It could have done something. Hurt me. Could have kept me there. But it didn't. It just watched. Took 2 photos. It was documenting something. It wanted me to know it had been there. Why? I'll never know. And that's what keeps me up at night. Fear. Up in my place. But not knowing. People always say the scariest stories are the ones without explanations, where you never find out what the monster was or why it did what it did. I used to think that was just a writing trick, a cheap way to make something seem scarier than it was. But now I get it, because living with unanswered questions is so much worse than knowing the truth, even if the truth is terrifying. I know what I saw, or I think I do, but maybe I don't. Maybe I never will. And that's what scares me most, that I was in that cabin with something, that it was close enough to touch me, that it took my phone and used it, and I never knew. That it's probably still out there, and I'll never know what it was.